Many of you know there are charges now against Republican State Senator Justin Eichorn from Grand Rapids. And so I wanted to kind of walk through a couple of, sorry, Danny? Oh, okay, sounds good. Okay, no problem. Yep, you guys, take your time. We're getting our guest on the line here to talk a little bit about it, but just to bring you up to speed, the story is basically that the Minnesota GOP Senator Justin Eichorn was arrested on Monday. The accusation is a solicitation of a 17-year-old girl for prostitution in Bloomington, and there have been a flurry of calls for his resignation from both parties in the last 24 hours. So we asked Michael Brodkorb to come on and talk to us a little bit about this. Michael, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah, so we need you to kind of put on your political analyst hat here as we take a look at this. So I'm curious, first of all, your reaction when you heard about these allegations against Senator Eichorn. And now I don't know if you saw, but we just read through the statement of probable cause, and we have a lot more details of the allegations.
It's difficult to read, it's difficult to process. I was with a former colleague of Senator Eichorn's yesterday when the news broke, and they were physically distraught when they learned the news. And the details that are in the charging document are going to be very difficult for Minnesotans to process and understand. But I do think it shows that the calls yesterday by members of his own caucus, by Senate Republicans, by legislative Republicans in the House, by the Republican Party of Minnesota, and by the DFL party, calling on him to step down and to resign, were justified. Because sadly, in these types of cases, the more we learn, the more our stomachs are going to churn, and we're going to be sick by what we learn.
Yeah, and people, these are allegations. Obviously, there's, I guess, due process for everyone. There are people, though, Michael, who have said, we have these two state senators now accused of crimes. We have Senator Nicole Mitchell on the DFL side, charged with burglary. She's still in the Senate pending her trial in June, and now we have this. So I guess the question is there due process in politics? Where is that line?
I think there is due process in politics, but I think there's also an expectation that if you're in the public arena, that you're going to operate accordingly. There's, elected officials, it's a citizen legislature. It's not a full-time job. And so you have seen situations where members of the legislature have been charged with DWIs, and they haven't been asked to resign. There's been a variety of legislators that have been charged with crimes that they've been afforded the opportunity to stay. But I think the challenge regarding Senator Mitchell is that it's two felony charges, and a unique circumstance that applies to legislators is that they can delay their trials, criminal proceedings, when they're in legislative session. And also with Senator Eichorn now, because it's a felony charge involving, solicitation of a prostitution of someone under the age of 18. That in and of itself, I think, rises to the level where there should be a standard when we get to some of the severity of these charges, that people need to take a step back from their roles, because the reality is they can't effectively serve and proceed with a criminal case and defending themselves while these matters are going on. It's very difficult to juggle.
Mm. And I don't quite know how to ask this, but it's interesting because, many people may recognize the senator's name from just recent headlines where he was part of this GOP effort, to make Trump derangement syndrome, that bill going through the legislature. And so I think, it gets even trickier when you look at, and again, this is not a DFL or a Republican thing, because, like you said, personal lives on both sides, and people do things in their personal lives. But do you know what I'm getting at here is that it's trickier when you have someone standing, for certain things, and then something like this happens.
There's no question about it that there is, when you have legislators, that there's a hypocrisy argument that comes by. I don't think anyone would have an expectation that any legislator, regardless of political affiliation, would be supportive or have a tolerance for these types of charges. But when you have a situation where it's a more politically conservative member of the legislature, someone who's taken such a public stance, particularly in what I would say mocking those who have disagreements with the current president of the United States and introducing this type of, I think, sophomoric legislation to then face these kind of substantive criminal charges involving prostitution of someone they believe to be under the age of 18. It is fair for people to discuss kind of how legislators act in these particular situations in public life than what they're doing in their private life. And it's that level of hypocrisy that I think will play in and factor into this.
And we should point out, just for context really quickly, we just have a few minutes left here, but you were on the front lines of Minnesota politics for a long time, deputy chair of Minnesota's Republican Party. You are now self-described as a sort of homeless Republican. And so it's interesting to kind of get your take on this as you look at it through a couple of different lenses. I'm curious, before I let you go, about the just sort of the state of state politics here in 2025 as you take a look at the landscape. What are your thoughts?
This is a hyper-partisan time right now. Both members of the legislature, both the House and the Senate, are very close. The Minnesota House is tied, and the DFL have a one-seat majority in the Senate. And the opportunity that creates is it creates opportunity for friction, like friction that exists between two tectonic plates and an earthquake. It also provides opportunity for there to be agreement and opportunities for people to work together. And I truly hope that while there's going to be partisan rancor and there's going to be disagreements, I do hope that Minnesotans, particularly legislators of both parties, can appeal to their better angels and come together and really showcase what bipartisan work can be at the legislature. And I think that would be really remarkable. It would also be in Minnesota's good tradition of good governance. And this situation, sadly, with Senator Eichorn and also going on with Senator Mitchell, we need to remember that there's 201 legislators, and the vast majority of them, I think my math would be 199 of them, are not facing any legal issues. And they're trying to get some good work done on behalf of the Minnesotans. Yeah. And I hope they can get that done.
All right. Michael Brodkorb, thank you so much for your time.